Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Good evening. Today is Black Monday, the day the Dow dropped more than 500 points.
Please join me in welcoming George Soros.
It's panic. Everyone's everybody would try to find a bottom.
To stand up and do something, become really engaged in the electoral process in this country.
What we have to confront is a deep, systemic and structural restructuring of our world. And this will take some time. And the world will look differently after we have gone through this transition process.
For centuries, they've been stuffing their stomachs with human flesh, and they've been stuffing their pockets with money. But they must realize that this bowl of vampires is about to end.
We have an army of digital soldiers.
That this is coming. This is going to be a part of a future where we can take back our power in ways we didn't even think about in the industrial age that are coming in the digital age.
But the common people of these countries in their heart, they can feel what's happening. They can see our struggle for our independence, for our true sovereignty. And they see this connection with their aspirations to be truly independent, which is exacerbated by the fact that in the Western elites there is a strong desire to freeze the current unfair state of things in international affairs.
Well, let me tell you something, brother. When they took a shot at my hero, and they tried to kill the next President of the United States, enough was enough. And I said, let Trumpomania run wild, brother. Let Trumpomania rule again. Let Trumpomania make America great again.
People who don't believe are walking dead. They are asleep. And this is the awakening.
In the barren fields just outside Sidi Bouzid lies the body of 26-year-old Mohammed Buazizi in the peace and dignity that eluded him in life. His fresh grave marked only by the Tunisian flag that drapes over it. On December 17th, Mohammed Buazizi, a single man who had supported his widowed mother and siblings since the age of 10, took to the streets with his fresh produce cart to earn a day's wage.
At around 10 a.m., as he was making his way through the streets, the policewoman began to harass my son, so he called his uncle to help him. She left him alone, only to return later to confiscate his cart. Mohammed said no. The policewoman took the fruit, but when she tried to take his scales, Mohammed refused. She slapped him and began to insult and curse his father.
Mohammed, frustrated and ashamed by the public humiliation he endured at the hands of police, set himself on fire outside the local municipality building. His closest friends, anguished by Mohammed's actions, took to the streets and began a popular uprising that lasted for weeks before it toppled the 23-year-old rule of President Zain Abidine Ben Ali. In one of the most foretelling moments at the peak of the Tunisian uprising, the soon-to-be ousted president visited a badly burned Buazizi in his hospital bed just before he died. Police delivered the body to the family for burial under tight security, afraid news of his death would only fuel the uprising even more.
When we wanted to bury him, we wanted to carry his body in front of the municipal building where he burnt himself. The police wouldn't let us. They told us to take his body through a place nobody would see us.
But cell phone video given to Al Jazeera by his family shows hundreds of mourners risking a police crackdown to escort the body for burial. Away from the popular uprising his self-immolation triggered, Buazizi was a simple and modest man.
Not a single person hated him. He did not have a single fault or bad behavior. He had ambitions that he never achieved. He wanted to get married and have some money to take care of his mother and family.
Outside his family home stands the produce cart from which Muhammad tried to earn a dignified living. And kilometers away, his family, friends, and strangers now come to visit the man whose death, they pray, has given birth to a nation's freedom. Ayman Muhyiddin, Al Jazeera, Sidi Bouzid.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Book of Trump. I'm your host, Gordy McCormack. Tonight is August 11th, 2025, and this is chapter 27, the Arab Spring. And we are fortunate tonight to be joined by a special guest, whistleblower, Benghazi whistleblower, Extortion 17 whistleblower, Nick No. Nick, how are you this evening?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Appreciate you being here. Really looking forward to this. Hopefully, maybe this will be the first of many conversations that we'll have. I think you probably have a large knowledge base for the spirit of the show, which is really to capture the first revision of history as we see it. All history is interpretation. This is our interpretation, but we all understand that we've been lied to in the news media, and obviously the history is going to be a lie if we leave it in the hands of the liars. So we have a responsibility to put our thumb on the scale and try to at least push back with our own interpretation. So I think you'll be a great contributor to that this evening. Before we go any further, though, let's say thank you to a sponsor, and that would be Goldco. Have you heard about President Trump's impact on gold? Every time Trump's name surges in the headlines, gold goes with it. It happened the day he took office, and it's still going up. Gold doesn't just like Trump. It rallies around him. If you bought gold the day he became president, you'd be up almost $400 an ounce by now. Here's the thing. Gold has been used as a store of value for centuries. The government can't easily manipulate it, and it's known as a hedge against market risk and inflation. How high will the price of gold go under Trump's second term? Will gold continue to break record after record in 2025 and beyond? Learn about an IRS loophole that allows you to diversify your savings with gold and silver, tax and penalty free, with a free copy of the gold and silver kit sent directly to your doorstep. Plus, you could qualify for up to a 10% instant match in bonus silver. Visit badlandsgold.com to learn how you can add gold to your portfolio. That's badlandsgold.com. Yeah, so thank you to Goldco. Yeah, man, so pleasure having you here. Really enjoyed the multiple appearances you made on Baseless Conspiracies. Yeah, how are you this evening, Nick?
I am slightly sick. I went to a family birthday party at a public place, and a bunch of kids were there, so naturally it's like throwing a smallpox blanket on me or whatever, you know. I'm sick.
Yeah, I've been there. Trust me, I have 3 young kids, so every week one of them's sick, and that means I'm always fighting off something. Yeah, but so I thought that given your the primary focus of what you're known for, the whistleblowing on the Benghazi incident and Extortion 17, which falls within the time frame of August. I think it's August 2011 was Extortion 17. September 11th, 2012 was the Benghazi incident. That really puts it right in the Arab Spring time frame. So I figured using the Arab Spring as kind of the framework for tonight's discussion made a lot of sense. And we've spent, as I briefed you on, we've spent the past few episodes talking about Netanyahu, running through his entire life, his whole biography, and kind of wrapped up last week with Obama's second term and kind of filling in.
Did you ever find out who his father was? Was it like Satan or who was it?
I think that was actually his great grandfather, maybe great grandfather. Yeah, but I mean, hell of a life story, like a biography, for him to be where he is right now, in the position he is right now, given all the things that have happened to him and the things that have been said to him by specific leaders in the ultra orthodox community. Schneerson, I don't know if you're familiar with Rebbe Schneerson, but yeah. So like that infamous video from, I think it's the 1980s, but 1990 maybe, of him saying, "You're running out of time. Go ahead and make sure you prepare the way for the Messiah." Yeah, it's interesting.
It's a death cult. The one I'm surprised that you actually know about that. A lot of people don't know about the inside Jewish track there. It's kind of like a, I don't know, Westboro Baptist Church version of Christianity or something like that. They're secular over there. At least they say they are, but none of them believe in God. At least not our God.
Yeah, I would agree with you. On that. I would agree with you on that. And we have actually spent the first 45 minutes or so of the first Netanyahu episode just running through the history of ultra Orthodox Judaism, the Pale of Jewish settlement, like the Russian Pale of Jewish settlement, how that neighborhood, that giant ghetto, produced the Bolsheviks. It produced the Zionists. It produced Trotsky, who then goes on to become the founder of modern neoconservatism. So it's like the Republican Party comes from the modern Republican Party comes from the same place that Zionism comes from, that the Bolsheviks come from, and it's all Eastern Europe. It's all the places, Ukraine, where we're now hearing about. So it's
what did you think about when Putin, out of his whole entire speech, he made sure he mentioned the black suits and the people who are basically Jewish that were running over there in Ukraine? I mean, we could talk about that. That's really exciting. I know the Arab Spring. I mean, I could talk about that. A lot of people don't know a lot of details, but the Arab Spring is really important too. So if we want to, we can elaborate. I did not know that it started with some stuff going on over in Tunisia.
Yeah,
it must have been an easy coup.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and jump into that. And like I said, like you started to get into it there. I love that your mind is there already, because it's like all this stuff is connected. Like I look at Ukraine, I see Israel. I look at Israel, I see Ukraine. All this stuff is connected. So like I said, this is probably the first of many discussions that we'll have. I hope.
Finkel is Einhorn. It always has been.
That's right. So let's run through the official narrative of what was the Arab Spring, because I think this is a term that I'm sure many people who owned a television set are familiar with the term. They may not know what it actually was. It was all the rage back in 2011. Is what every news channel was talking about. So in let's see, it would be January 2011. This guy, Bin Ali, who was the president of Tunisia from 1987 until 2011, resigns. And what starts his downfall, what starts like the color revolution, the regime change operation against him, is that news story that I did the cold open with. There was a guy who, the official narrative is that this guy was being persecuted by the Tunisian police, and basically reaches breaking point, goes in front of one of the government buildings, lights himself on fire, kills himself. There's no video of him actually doing that. I went and searched far and wide, and I could not find any sort of video or photograph. However, his cousin did film the aftermath, which was like a crowd amassing around the government building and then starting to riot against the government. And then that eventually leads to this guy resigning from office. And then within weeks/months, but between February and March of 2011, every place that you see this yellow fist inside a black square had a similar kind of protest sweep across against their governments. Now, not everyone was a success. The ones that were the most successful, it seems, were Libya and Egypt, and then of course Syria. Resulted in a 13-year civil war. But I think we're probably going to spend some time talking about Libya tonight
Sure.
in Syria as well. But it's worth noting that Egypt,
Yes.
Egypt, this guy Mubarak resigns. There's there's an election that's held that's held after he's ousted by the army. This guy Mohammed Morsi, who's backed by the Muslim Brotherhood, wins the election. He comes into power for I think 3 years, and then is removed.
He died on the stand.
Yeah, he dies on the stand in 2019. Like, so he's removed in 2015 by a military coup. This guy, who's currently the president, El-Sisi, he's installed in 2015. Yep. Morsi is put in prison. He finally goes to trial in 2019, and then on the stand in the courtroom drops dead.
Yeah, he said he had more information on the Clintons or something like that right before recess. Serious.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, it's wild, but like these stories are.
See,
like,
Morsi got put in place.
Is crazy. So please walk us through.
Yeah. So what people don't know is that Hillary went to go visit him before that Benghazi, and on the night Benghazi the attacks happened, we were told, well, at least the Marines were told to hand over their weapons, or actually put their weapons up and hand over the embassy to Morsi. That was at the same night, the same time, same day. Same group of people. And so you got to understand that Hillary and them coordinated all of this. And so she installed this guy, and that's why he was killed on the stand. He can't talk about what he knows because Hillary put him there,
That's actually fascinating to think about, because I didn't even, like, when you made that joke, I wasn't even thinking about the fact that it was Hillary who installed him. So him dying on the stand, it really probably was a Clinton body count statistic there. So yeah, and then a number of other leaders are threatened. Their rule at least is threatened. But the two I think that are the most critical to the story that we're tracking would be Gaddafi and Assad. So we did an episode on Assad, kind of walked through who his father was, walked through who he is, and I think the audience has an appreciation for that more so than the average audience out there. Gaddafi is an interesting character that I'd like if you could provide a little background on him, because he was in power for 42 years, and as we were talking about before the show, pretty well connected with the intelligence agencies of the West.
Yeah, you don't stay a dictator for 42 years without the West approving it. And he actually cooperated more than all the other Arab countries with the United States. He actually liked us, which was ironic that we killed him. He had a bunch of black sites there for the CIA. They're like, "Hey man, we need more sites." He's like, "All right, sure, go ahead, just leave me alone, whatever." And then so he lets him do that. And then as soon as he asks for gold for his oil, and he wants to unite Africa and make sure they're not exploited and have their resources stolen anymore, then he became a bad guy really fast.
Gave that speech at the UN about vaccines in 2009.
Yeah, everything that he said. And then there's another one too where he talked about when he's removed, there's going to be a wave of people come in. He already knew everything that they had planned. It's pretty obvious. Let's talk about the good things he did for his country. He gave them basically free gas. I mean, as cheap as it costs to make. He gave them free education, free health care. If you wanted land and you want to be a farmer, he would give you land and water. He made it I used to kind of there's I was a younger guy, and at one point I was kind of a jerk, but I used to watch those commercials, in Africa. They're like, "In the arms of the angel." I'm like, why don't they move to where water is? And then, of course, you know what he does? He makes a canal across his country, so there's water everywhere. Genius. Come on, man. He's the only person that actually tried to help Africa, and then we killed him. It's stupid.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. And so we've mentioned that before on either this show or maybe one of my other shows. But what ends up happening is Al Jazeera, the same news outlet that was running that cold open, puts out a story that Gaddafi was giving Viagra to his soldiers and then ordering them to rape women in villages around Libya while he's fighting these proxy militias. And so NATO then grabs that article and says, well, we got to get in there and save these poor women in these villages. And that was the official, like the first official boots on the ground operation that NATO had on African soil was in Libya against Gaddafi.
Yeah, then they did the no-fly zone. I watched all that stuff happen. It's pretty stupid, all of it.
Yeah,
I watched it happen, man. Listen, Operation, I think I'm allowed to talk about it. The name of the operation, I think it's public. Let me just Google it real quick just to make sure I don't break the rules.
Yeah.
1 second.
Sorry. Yeah, but while you're doing that, so what's interesting is that it says right here, October 20, 2011 is when he is
okay, Operation Odyssey done. Okay. Yeah, it's allowed.
Go for it.
Okay, so basically we did a no-fly zone. We had the French assholes come in, and then those guys, my Air and Space Operations Center I worked at, we destroyed Libya, we destroyed Syria, we coordinated all of it in my office. And in between there, usually you have targets and stuff that come through. The joint force commanders, JFAC, whoever's in control at the time, basically approves the targets. That goes through an entire process for assassinations and people, places, things, whatever. And I want everybody to know during that time that Obama bypassed the entire legal process that's normally reserved for the military with the JAG and everything. I mean, there are boxes you have to check before you can kill people. They have to do this. Like usually it's like about 6 or 7 variables. And then once you get to that, then it's like, okay, now we can light this dude up, because we know at this point it's beyond 99% chance that, and so on. But he didn't do that. He just sent his own lists over. He'd do that. I just want everybody to know that, because, and that was something I read that. I don't know if anybody else in my unit read that stuff, but I read all of it. I read the entire, all of our documentation and everything, and knew the rules and what they were supposed to do. And basically he was just whacking people. He felt like it a lot of the time.
Interesting. Well, the other really interesting part about Libya in 2011 is that you had these senators who went over there earlier in the year. Here's the CNN article. It says McCain Graham show courage in Libya. Senator John McCain tours Libyan rebel headquarters in their eastern stronghold city of Benghazi on April 22nd. This is 2011. Here is you can see on the left here. Here's a picture of John McCain, Lindsey Graham, I think that's Richard Blumenthal.
Does Lindsey Graham have his hand in his pocket?
Yeah, down here. Yeah, I think he does. And then this guy right here is Abdel Hakim Belhaj, who goes on later to become the leader of the ISIS Libya faction just months after this meeting. And of course, John McCain also goes to Syria at this time and meets with a number of rebel leaders, including Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, who famously died like a dog in the cave later during the Trump administration.
Every dog has its day.
That's right. And the other interesting person who was a part of this little tour, because I think they went multiple times, it sounds like. John McCain at least went multiple times. Here's a Politico article from August of 2011. Marco Rubio, the current Secretary of State, in tow with them, touring. It says right here, 4 Republican senators traveled to Libya on Thursday to meet with former rebels who overthrew the regime of Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. It says Senator Rubio, John McCain, Lindsey Graham, and Mark Kirk will meet with members of the National Transitional Council, made up largely of the opposition movement that knocked Gaddafi from power, reports the AP. And correct me if I'm wrong, but this group is ISIS, right?
Yeah, because the original rebels that were there kind of got massacred. Well, they did. Well, they were doing okay. We gave them the weapons. They started getting stuff, and they had some training. And coincidentally, this guy named General Vallely was over there. He's been well known he's in the Q documentary and some other stuff. But he was literally there training their leadership on what to do and how to train people and so on. And the weapons that we bombed around weapons caches in Libya, and they were supposed to be delivering the weapons there to those troops, and they never made it there. So that put him in a bad position, because he's vulnerable. None of the weapons ended up going there, or whatever. And anyway, he still got really mad about that whole thing. And I've got some images that we could share on there. Real quick. I just want to pull it up real quick, and so that way everybody can see, just for posterity.
Sure thing. And yeah, and then there's the other. I'm going to pull up as well the famous clip of Hillary Clinton. I mean, we want to talk about Gaddafi's final hours and why I think a question for you of why I think he was targeted among all these African leaders. But the Hillary Clinton clip about Gaddafi, that's very famous. Oh, somebody pulled it from the internet. It's all right.
We came, we saw, he died. Ha 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 ha.
I mean, it's such a sinister video. And actually, I did find it here.
She had Kuru disease. That's what the issue was.
Yeah. So basically, like Gaddafi, as it said there, I think it was October 20th, 2011. He's surrounded. He calls up Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, agrees to surrender. I think she tells him that if you surrender, we'll let you live. He surrenders. They come pull him out of the castle, and then they like live stream like butchering him online, and kill him. And then she then goes on CBS News and says this about Gaddafi after betraying him and feeding him to ISIS.
Yeah, she wanted his money that he had hidden from.
Saw he died.
Yeah, here it is.
No, it's so. I mean, that is the land of unconfirmed videos.
Yes, we came, we saw, he died.
Did it have anything to do with your visit?
No, I'm sure it did.
Yeah.
God, who had to tend to her at the Eyes Wide Shut parties, dude?
Yeah, I mean, man, like the giddiness in her face, talking about just killing somebody, but killing a leader. That the death of Gaddafi then, of course, leads to the invasion of Europe by the continent of Africa, because then all the boats that he had been holding back are launched across.
All paid for by USAID and George Soros.
Yeah,
to destroy Europe, destroy any culture, any white culture that exists, any European culture, destroy it. Because when you erase the identity of a nation, then you can control them. If they don't talk to one another, they don't have any pride in what they do, they don't remember anything, then there's nothing except for the 5 inches in front of them. Then you will never have a revolution with some people like that.
Yeah.
And this right here is General Vallely, with them training these guys. There's videos, you can go find them online, where he is training these guys, really working hard. Like these people genuinely wanted to resist, and they were genuine opposers. It wasn't like some sort of like intel. I mean, obviously intelligence was helping, but like it was like they did it themselves and they're organizing. So then let's help them. Anyway, of course, everybody knows what happens after that. The same people that were there, they called for help, they get massacred. I'm watching this. I don't know how much of this is public, but basically we were helping them, and then all of a sudden their support fell short. The supply lines were cut, whatever you want to call it. And then they were like, "Oh no, we're getting massacred!" Right? They were getting taken out really quickly. And then they called to the Middle East and said, "Oh, anybody that's Muslim, come and do a jihad and come out here, and you're welcome." And then everybody came out there, and of course, intelligence agencies, you name it. A lot of basically Israel ran ISIS. So the CIA was involved too, with providing the weapons to them and stuff. But it was pretty sad, because when I was sitting there in the operations center, we were watching all this go down. Of course, when ISIS started to sweep across the Middle East, they were just going village to village, cutting everybody's throats, filming it and then publishing it everywhere. And we didn't do anything to stop them. I mean, this is how easy it was. You had Toyota Tundras, giant Toyota Tundras, brand new Toyota Tundras. You can't mistake them for any other car. And they got gun turrets on them and whatever. Then these dumbasses are driving across the desert where there's nothing else but these lights. And these people all single file driving together. And you're telling me that we couldn't take them out?
Yeah.
We couldn't figure it out.
That's a great point. Like you saw, I mean, how many videos in Syria did we see of like the line of vehicles, like running down those roads? And that kind of leads into the question that I wanted to ask or the confirmation that I wanted to ask is one of the many benefits of taking out Gaddafi and targeting him. I think we've listed a few already, but he had, I believe, the world's largest private armory. That's the rumor, at least, that he had this massive armory of vehicles, of chemical weapons, of aircraft, just all the things you could imagine. And so that was basically raided, looted, and then logistics facilitated to Turkey and Cyprus, and then routed into Syria so that this massive jihad could be waged against Assad, basically.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. It's yeah. What you're talking about. I'm so glad that you talk about these things because no one really talks about that kind of stuff where Turkey was involved and other countries like that. It's a big mess. It can be unraveled. If you go look at it, the Arab Spring, they use the IIA technology. The original person who made the technology that was used in the Arab Spring, they were a genuinely, well, let's just say this. Okay, look, their father is a neuroscientist / neurosurgeon, and then this guy has an eidetic memory, right? Really smart guy, and he's really familiar with neuro-linguistic programming, right? And how certain words and in the way you say things can completely change someone's train of thought from being negative to positive and so on. And his original intent with this technology was to find people who were radicalized and then start sending them, it's just a dumb example, like send them cat videos instead of decapitations or whatever, make that kind of stuff start showing up in their feed, little things like that, slowly edge them away from that, and that's what it was all about, to prevent any of that stuff. And if it would have been deployed properly, they probably could have subdued, I don't know if you ever looked at the statistics about Muslims in general and their belief that, murder is okay for their religion and stuff. It's actually quite high. And if we would have done it properly, we would have changed the hearts and minds of all those people to make them no longer want to harm other people, and not to mention their own, other people that are also Muslim and so on. But they ended up kicking him out. Basically, someone bought technology from his company, and they said, "Oh, you're gonna be involved, whatever." And they knew he was too nice and kind, like a good person that understands this preventative. And then they cut him out, and later became part of another program. Like changed hands a few times, but I think it was called the Jedi Program eventually, that was killed recently in 2019, I think. I don't know, something like that. But basically, that was where the Arab Spring ran out of. And it just goes to show that the people making the decisions were complete psychopaths. They have no moral compass, or they don't even care about the blowback. I mean, Hillary, when she was laughing about killing Gaddafi, it was because she was going to steal all of his money that the UN didn't know about, and then launder it through a Turkish energy company. I'm glad you bring up Turkey, also part of this, through a Turkish energy company. Little did she know, one of the people that owned the company hated her and found out about this. And then, of course, they set her up. David Kendall, her attorney from Whitewater, and also the Bleach Bit one. He was the one soliciting the money through the Turkish energy company. And they set him up. They got the bills and everything. The Secret Service, because of fraud, they have to check to make sure if they're fraudulent bills, then they get like 1% of what the take was of the total amount they recover. And then if they were real bills and it was illicit money, then they get 10%. So either way, it was going to work out great. It was like $1.6 billion or something that was in Ghana they were going to steal. But of course, somehow they got tipped off. Maybe it was because they had Joe Biden's guy in there, Brian Ettinger, in the International Crimes Task Force that works with Interpol and so on. Maybe that's why. I don't know.
Huh. Well, so to your point, like about what you mentioned earlier about all these fighters flooding into Libya when they rang the dinner bell, calling for jihad. Here on the screen, same thing with Syria. All these red arrows and black arrows represent people being recruited online to come fight in Syria, and every country that's a peach color, like orangish color, are countries where people came from. And I mean, you're talking about this entire hemisphere, all of Europe, half of Africa, the entire Middle East, most of Asia. I mean, it's pretty wild that they were able to get people from half the world, even people from New Zealand and Australia.
Would have never happened if we didn't pull out support and let them get massacred.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
It was intentional.
Huh.
To destabilize the region.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about the ambassador there in Libya? Do you have any thoughts on him?
He snuck in on a boat, and I heard a rumor that he was there to try and recover the missiles that were used to shoot down Extortion 17 in Afghanistan, because it was basically a crime spree that kept having, hiccups along the way where they kept getting caught, and then they have to go clean up that mess and then clean up the next mess. And that's basically was a series of several crimes, and that led to Benghazi because, the CIA had put these, let's just say, anti-aircraft missiles. It doesn't matter. Like, people get really, been out of shape about what exactly, what surface-to-air missiles they were. That doesn't matter because it doesn't. But like you got those missiles were provided by the CIA and Hillary Clinton, and Stinger missiles, and those could shoot down a jetliner. If you're a child, if you're strong enough, like 12-year-old, if they can hold it up, if they're sturdy enough, they could probably shoot down a jetliner with one of those. But anyway, so those are all going through there, and the whole point is that Hillary got caught with her pants down because the only types of arms that were supposed to be going through there that were legally authorized by the government were small arms fire. So basically fully automatic weapons, grenades, very minor stuff. And what Hillary did was took over the covert weapons program from Mark Turi. She personally pushed him out of the way and said, "I'm doing this now." And that's when she sent those weapons through. She had to do that because she had to send the missiles through to shoot down Extortion 17 to make it even with the screw up that they did. They didn't kill Bin Laden, and in their culture, you have to make things even, and it's called dia. So if you kill somebody from another tribe, they're very tribal, they're expected to either kill that person to make it even, or to kill someone from that tribe, or to receive money. And there actually used to be a going rate. I think back in the 80s, it was something like $60,000 for a wrongful death, type thing. And so whenever they went into, as soon as they got into the airspace in Pakistan, that's when they pulled out Bin Laden, because at that point they were screwed. You're in another country's airspace, an act of war, and then how are they going to explain what happened and why they were there? Let's say they just said that, "Oh, we're going to get Bin Laden, and that's why we were there." Then people would say, "Well, why didn't you get him? What happened?" And then they'll say, "Well, we can't tell you, it's classified." But really, the reason is that because Bin Laden was transferred there for the trophy kill. And then they say, wait. So this was kind of like an agreement. Okay, I get it. But how did that happen? And then if they ask that question, then they'll be like, okay. So what was he doing in Iran? How did he get there? And then people will be like, okay, so John Brennan put him in Iran, and he made a secret agreement with Saudi Arabia and Iran not to attack the United States, not to attack Saudi Arabia too. So that's what really happened. And what happened after that is that Bin Laden's son in particular, he was still working, Al-Qaeda. I'm sorry, I have to stop, take a breath here.
Please.
So his son, he's working for Al-Qaeda still. And there's a guy named, I think he's the interior minister. His son was, but then he was like their intel person. So basically they tried to kill this guy named Bin Naif over in Saudi Arabia, a government official, and they they almost kill his son. And so he is so angry at them because we had a deal. And then he lost his freaking mind and started sending diplomatic cables saying, we had an agreement. Like, you ever see like South Park, whatever, when Cartman's like, "We had an agreement, Kyle." We had an agreement, and he's out there. he was so angry that he wrote these diplomatic cables saying, "You better get your boy Brennan here. Like, they killed my son. This isn't supposed to happen. This isn't part of the 2001 treaty that we signed." And then get this: if you look at the actual, I'll bring it up. The page, it's on WikiLeaks, is published. It's out there for everybody. If you look at that actual page, then you'll see that there was a signed agreement. It wasn't just a gentleman's agreement, as a lot of people thought it would be. It was a signed agreement. I just put it up there for you. If you could display it for me real quick.
Says Naif complained that over the past 2 years, Iran has hosted Saudis, all Sunnis, including Osama bin Laden's son, Ibrahim, who had contacts with terrorists and worked against the kingdom. SAG considered this aggressive action a breach of the 2001 security agreement between the two nations. The SAG has informed Iran through its ambassador and the MFA, asking the GOI to hand over these Saudis. Naif recalled that after the operations in Khobar in 1996, the SAG tried to open channels with Iran and tried to improve relations during Khatami's presidency. He himself had met personally with Iranian National Security Secretary General Dr. Hassan Rouhani, and had signed a security agreement in which Iran promised to show respect and not take any actions inside or outside Iran against the kingdom. Brennan agreed that Iran had the capacity to cause trouble and assured the prince that the USG was very concerned and looking carefully at the situation. President Obama's willingness to talk to the Iranians did not mean he did not understand the problem. Brennan emphasized the SAG's strong friends in the White House, including President Obama, wanted to work very closely with Saudi Arabia on this front. Wow. So when was this cable sent? What is the time frame here?
Unfortunately, I just did a screenshot. If you use these exact words and you go on to WikiLeaks, you can pull up the same documents.
Okay.
It goes at length and it goes further and that stuff. I really just wanted to just show that there really was a secret agreement that was actually inked. So people have speculated that, whatever was a secret agreement. No, it was a written agreement that was signed.
So question, Naif. Is that referring to Mohammed bin Naif, like the guy who became crown prince in January 2015 and then was ousted by MBS in June of 2017? Is that the same Naif?
I don't know. Is it? It might be. What about
because that's kind of a. I don't know if you're familiar with that story. I mean, we haven't done The Purge yet. The Purge is like I'm really looking forward to doing that episode. We've done the sword dance episode. We haven't done the Purge episode yet. We have done the Vegas shooting, because we have a guy here at Badlands who was actually there at the concert. So he came on and gave us a play-by-play. But I think I might want to bring you back on to do the Purge. But this is Mohammed bin Naif, and so he is CIA, like dear old friend of the CIA, Saudi intelligence, and he becomes crown prince when Prince Salman becomes king in January 2015, when his brother dies. MBS becomes defense minister. This guy becomes crown prince, and it seems like because he was put in as crown prince, that kind of allowed the CIA to breathe like a sigh of relief, because they're all right, our guy's in there, we're good. But then, of course, 1 month after the sword dance, he is ousted, and there's a dramatic telling that we don't have to get into here about him basically being like forced to resign by MBS, and then he's like sent off to live at a very nice beach house, but he's basically imprisoned there.
It's nothing personal. It's a family affair. It's a family problem. The whole idea. It's just that's why I let him stay alive. Same with Ben Talal. He let him live because his family. But basically, going way back to the first king or whatever call him of Saudi Arabia, he had many wives, and one of his favorite wives was the one. Basically, they ended up. Her offspring ended up getting all of the titles and money and things like that. And so bin Salman was the next in line for that. And bin Talal basically organized the coup using Khashoggi Khashoggi, his father, is part of the Safari Club, going all the way back to when Carter was in office. They Saudi Arabia, Iran, and who else was it? A couple of other countries, the UAE. They all put a bunch of money in a bank account for Bush. And by the way, it was literally his bank account. He controlled it, and so he ran a parallel CIA out of that. And he was already doing that anyway since he helped kill JFK. But this just gave them that much power, that much more power, unlimited funds. Imagine that.
Yeah. That's the whole Khashoggi thing. I 100% need to have you come back and do, because I want to go into Khashoggi. I want to go into the Purge. I want to go into all that stuff. And the audience here knows that Saudi is the rabbit hole that I've probably spent the most time on, and it's one of the most intriguing to me. But yeah, I'm very, very interested in what happened there circa 2017 to 2019. But as far as Syria goes, and the fallout from the Arab Spring, and I guess they call it the Arab Winter. I think that's like the little cutesy term they came up with to describe the aftermath, the 2010s basically. You have the creation of ISIS, and so you have all this armory, this amazing, very large private armory from Gaddafi, unloaded. I know the Badlands Story Hour a few weeks ago did the 13 Hours Benghazi movie. There's even like a scene a few weeks ago. There's even like a scene in that movie where they're doing like the arms deal, where, I mean, that's the whole purpose of them being there. The whole purpose is them facilitating the logistics of getting those weapons out so that they can get into the hands of the right people, and those people can use the weapons to overthrow Assad, which doesn't happen until this past December, 14 years later. But let's back up a little bit, because you mentioned Extortion 17, and I want to kind of give everyone this timeline, just so they can have some context for what's happening here. So if we go back to, let's go back to where we were with, find my spot here. I hope I don't give you motion sickness here, but we got January 2011 through March 2011. You have these protests erupt across the Middle East. Okay. April 2011 is when you had McCain doing his trips to Libya, to Syria. Fast forward 1 month to May 2011, May 2nd, 2011 is when you get the infamous killing of Osama Bin Laden in Pakistan, which you went over with Zach and John on Baseless Conspiracies, was basically them shipping Osama Bin Laden there as a trophy kill, as you tell it.
Because my friend gave him different scenario options, and he's one of those people that just, I don't know, he want to make it even with 6. He's autistic, right? Or he's got Asperger's, but it's like 6 sounds way much better, because he had all these options for him, and he's like, he threw that last one in, the trophy kill, because he didn't think they would do it, because it just was so loosely based, and there wasn't a real plan. And then they tried it. They did that instead of the ones where Iran was just going to give them to us. And instead they did this crazy plan where they got, tricked. And then what are you going to do? You have to pay them. You have to give them $152 billion. What are you going to do? Because it's the moment that they would be like, hey, it's Bin Laden. Look, he's our buddy. He's here right with us right now. Then everybody say, whoa, how'd that happen? And then they ask more questions, and they didn't find out about Iran and all that stuff. And then they realized that 9/11 was an inside job the whole time, because if they kept Bin Laden there, why would they do something like that unless it was them that did it? They did 9/11 in the first place.
Yeah. Okay. So the time, because where I'm going with this is I want you to explain a recap real quick. Extortion 17, because that's a term that gets thrown around a lot. And I just want people to understand the context of what it is, what happened, and can you explain real quick Extortion 17 to the audience?
Yes. So remember that Bin Laden is tribal, and tribes, like we talked about, you kill someone from the other tribe, it's even. It doesn't have to be that tribe subset A. It doesn't matter. It's that tribe. So the Extortion 17, when it was shot down, It actually did not have the munition explode when it hit the engine block. It hit the engine block. I guess they didn't. You're supposed to twist it, I guess, and make it armed, and then put it in there and shoot it, and they didn't do that. So when it hit the engine block, it just got stuck, and then the helicopter rotor stopped, and they just dropped straight out of the air, silently, straight down. Boom. So they hit. Michael Strange actually, falls out to the side, and he's out there fighting. Fighting. Everybody's fighting still. There's a firefight happening. We got Overwatch. There's a captain from the Air Force that went on mainstream television talking about this. I forget her name, but she basically explained that she watched the same thing happen. And there's a firefight, and they were told not to engage. And this was I think it was a KC-130. I can't remember. Whichever one is a gunship, where it has has regular 50 cal. It has little bitty like Hellfire kind of missiles. It's got big stuff too. Whatever you need, and so they can basically cover the whole battlefield, and that's what their job is. And they were told to stand down and let them die. So they watched their bodies turn cold on the scope because you can see in thermal. And Michael fought bravely all the way to the end. Everybody did, and it's just a shame that they lied about that even, and they accidentally gave the Gold Star parents the files that were classified, showing that they already knew the attacks were going to happen. They had the signals intercept, and I think someone that had a good heart actually gave them that. And so then you got Michael Strange's father, Charles Strange, who's been out there. He is relentless. He is not going to give up until this is over. And I think you probably saw that video in there about how he asked President Trump, from the bottom of his heart, he said, I still don't know what happened to my son. I really would like for you to help me do create a congressional hearing about it. And instead, he said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to go ahead and investigate, create a commission to investigate. Shoot, let me get this thing.
So, yeah. So let's talk about the time frame here. So May 2nd is the attack on the trophy kill on Osama bin Laden. That's May 2nd, 2011, and you can in Jalalabad in Afghanistan is where they launch it from. Abbottabad is where the actual compound is. Most people are pretty familiar with that, with the official narrative of that story and how it happens. And then fast forward 3 months later, August 2011, there is a operation where the same team that went in to get bin Laden are on this Chinook, this double propeller helicopter. And an RPG is fired at the helicopter. And as you said, it doesn't explode. It embeds itself in the engine block, causes the helicopter to drop out of the sky. And then the guys are fighting, and the Overwatch is told to stand down, effectively allowing these men to be killed.
That's correct. And upon further investigation, the Air Force did investigate this, and they found the serial number from that warhead that was still stuck in the engine block. It was traced back to the weapons cache in Qatar that Hillary took over and was selling through Benghazi.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Man. Yeah. So there's been a lot of speculation and a lot of rumor, innuendo on the internet about this situation and what's going to come of it. You mentioned Michael Strange's father. Here's Michael Strange right here. His father's the one who asked President Trump about addressing this, doing something about it. So maybe we will get some real actual disclosure. I think it's interesting, like you said, that the parents were given these files. So you think that it actually was somebody acting in earnest, trying to give the parents the truth?
Yes. And that was enough. That was enough to connect everything. That key detail that they knew, they had signals intelligence that there was going to be an attack that day. That in and of itself is actual malice, because the military would never send their guys into a trap. And by the way, this is for the record for history, right? Charles Woods, father of Ty Woods, who I've become friends with and keep in touch with, his daughter, Ty's sister, ended up marrying one of the Green Berets that was in that town when, where Extortion 17 went down. And he said that they did not make the call for help. As a matter of fact, they were upset because they were there secretively trying to make, trying to win favor with the, this group there. And then, of course, when the helicopters show up, that drew attention to them, to all the other, bad guys around, and they were upset about it, that they even did that. So they didn't call for help. That was a lie. And whoever set them up, it was probably the dang Navy SEALs guy, the same one that told them to get rid of the photos of Bin Laden. What is his name? Admiral McRaven. Yeah, that guy. He's responsible for a lot of it.
Wow. So on the screen, I'm showing, just to give everyone some context, the geography here. So you have Islamabad, or I'm sorry, Abbottabad here is where the compound was. Jalalabad is where they launched out of on May 2nd. And then where this red dot is, the Tangi Valley, is where the Chinook was shot down. So again, a different theater from where the Arab Spring takes place, because we're talking about the deep ancient Persian Empire, Afghanistan, Pakistan, versus Arabia, which is where, North Africa and Arabia, which is where the Arab Spring takes place. But again, all this stuff is connected, and it's all interrelated. And it really is amazing to see over the past couple of years, this whole community of, the Muslim world, find kind of common ground where they haven't been able to find common ground for thousands of years. And all of a sudden they are, they seem to be galvanized, and largely on the same page. And those are exciting, anecdotes that we'll get to in due time. But it is really quite a development that it's hard to appreciate if you don't go back and kind of look at how broken this place was just 10 years ago.
Yes, Ghost. Good sir. I've got to pause for a second. I got to do a break really quick. Be right back.
Sure. I'm going to do an ad read. All right. So let's take this opportunity to hear from our friend Mike Lindell. Let's see. A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving MyPillow with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss and your gain. MyPillow is offering the classic collection for wholesale prices, only $19.98 for a standard MyPillow. But it gets even better. For a limited time, they're going to offer their entire classic collection at wholesale prices. Get queen size MyPillows for just $24.98. Upgrade to king size for only $29.98. Get the body pillows for $39.98 and multi-use MyPillows for only $12.98. So go to mypillow.com and use promo code BADLANDS or call 1-800-795-5154 to take advantage of wholesale pricing and receive $100 in free digital gifts when your order is $75 or more. That's right. Get the standard MyPillow for only $19.98. Go to mypillow.com or call 1-800-795-5154 and use promo code BADLANDS to get the standard MyPillow for only $19.98. All right. Sweet. Yeah, so I think that that brings us to a good spot where we've covered Extortion 17, we've covered Benghazi, the Benghazi incident, but what, starting in 2013, I feel like from 2012 to 2015, you have in Syria really becomes the focus of what I guess they call the Arab Winter, like the aftermath of the Arab Spring. And I'm sure everyone recalls just hearing in the background of your life, Syria, the Syrian civil war. But in 2015, there's this change in the status quo, because in 2011, 2012, when ISIS comes into fruition and launches this massive attack armed with like first world military weaponry and tanks and armored vehicles and everything, Hezbollah comes over from Lebanon. backs Assad, and basically it's just Assad and Hezbollah fighting this massive army. And even though traditionally we think of these militias as being, kind of ragtag and not well funded, last year, sometime in the past year, I don't know if you saw this, but the former Qatari defense minister came out and did an interview, and I can go and try to find this video. But basically, he was trying to set the record straight, because he said, I can see what's coming. I can see what's happening. And basically, not only is Qatar going to get blamed for all of this, but I'm going to get blamed for all of this. So I just wanted to get out ahead of everything. But here's exactly what happened. In 2012, there was this confab of people. Basically, it was Turkey, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Jordan, Israel, the United States, Qatar, all decided that we were going to overthrow Assad. And so we pooled our money together and came up with a $2 trillion budget to basically for the sole purpose of overthrowing Assad. $2 trillion is what we were going to spend. They called it the Syria file. Originally, it was entrusted to the Qataris. And then after 2-3 years of no results, of it not working, somehow Assad was able to hold on and not get overthrown. The Saudis basically take the file away from the Qataris and say, all right, we're going to run point on this. This is like 2013, 2014, as this guy is telling it. And then in 2015, Putin then steps in and sends the Russian military down and the Wagner group down to Syria to back Assad. And that's when things really, it seems like the dynamic starts to shift a little bit more in favor of Syria and Assad. Don't know if you have any insight into any of that, but I thought that was an interesting disclosure from Qatar on that situation.
Well, Qatar wanted to put an oil pipeline through Syria, so they didn't want to destroy it too much.
Yeah, that I actually have some diagrams of that. That is these diagrams right here.
Yeah, that is the whole point. They would destroy an entire culture and kill everybody just because they want to put an oil pipeline to disrupt the Russians. The Russians, Russia. You better watch out. Man, that's such bullshit. Dude, look, Russia's been our ally. They've been trying to be friends with us ever since Putin got in. You know what happened? He played the deep state. He played the game, and as soon as he got into power, he flipped the script on him. You know how he did that? He created a spy network using the Greek Orthodox Church, Christian Church, which has a huge endowment of money, by the way, which would give him all of the resources he needed to defend himself and his crew. So then he turned on the West and said, basically, we don't like you guys. And he said, Rothschilds, you can't come in our country anymore. You can't adopt Russians, and stop messing with us. And of course, we kept pushing Russia further away from us and towards China, which Russia had, even going way back, has always been our friend. And you know what? When they weren't our friend, well, guess who took over? The Bolsheviks. Who was that? Guess who paid for all that? The same people, the same rat bastards that are trying to take over. Greater Israel has now become Greater Turkey. Israel has become Greater Iraq, Syria, Turkey, Iran, a little. Man, it's just the Khazarian mafia trying to restore the grift. They just want to take this territory and literally grift anybody that wants to do business. You want to do business in Asia? You got to pay me. You want to do business in Egypt? You got to pay me. You want to do, it's all about money. And that's all it was, dude. And the fact that nobody calls it out for what it is, these fake Jews that are not even real Jews are trying to take over this territory because they just want to make money and grift and kill everybody. They don't worship, they're not Jews. They worship Baal and Moloch. The reason that they wanted to take out Iran so bad too is because they're the second largest Jewish population in that area. So naturally they want to kill them. Why? Because they are Semitic Jews who would actually have a right to it if they wanted it, but they're not Zionists. They don't want anything to do with that. They are happy in Iran. They don't want, because in Iran, if you're Jewish or whatever religion you choose, they don't let you just say, oh yeah, I'm Jewish. My mom, she's Jewish, whatever, I'm Jewish. No. If you say you're Jewish, then you must go to you have to go to the temple. You have to learn the Torah. You have to speak Hebrew. You have to read it in your language. You have to read your books in your language. You know what I'm saying? And so even in that secular religious society, they still have representation, even in their stuff. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of issues with all that stuff. I mean, like, we're used to freedom, but it's a problem for the fake Jews, because the fake Jews have a problem. These people are alive, and if people find out that these people are actually Jewish and they have more of a right to the land, we're gonna have a problem. That's why they got to kill them. That's part of it. And, and of course, I don't know. I've had enough of it. I'm just telling the truth. It's all right there. It's stupid.
No, I appreciate your words. The like the chart, the graph that's shown here, to Nick's point. The story goes that the Qataris wanted to build this pipeline through Syria into Turkey, into Europe, that would compete with the Nord Stream, compete with the Russians. Assad said no. And basically the Qataris went to the Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton at the time, and said, hey, Hillary, we need help. Fix this for us. Here's whatever, $25 million is one of the numbers I've seen thrown out there. I don't know how much it was, but donations to the Clinton Foundation were made. And then suddenly that was when the Arab Spring, specifically the op against Gaddafi with the whole Viagra thing, took off. And again, like, it wasn't just like a season of color revolution. It was a 14-year bloody civil war that has destabilized not only the entire region, but also Europe and North America, because of this massive migrant crisis that has been caused. And to your point, like, one of the things that I've tried to talk about on the show and bring some attention to is this idea that they like to use the dichotomy. They like to use the binary to confuse people. It's like, okay, well, you have Netanyahu on one side and you have George Soros on the other. George Soros, backs the Muslims. He backs the Arabs. He said he claims that he's not against Israel, but he seems to be promoting all these causes that are against Israel. So therefore, he must be against Israel. Netanyahu speaks out against Soros. So Netanyahu and Soros, they must not be friends. They're enemies. They're working against one another. Same with Obama, because Obama aligns with Soros, and for many of the same reasons. However, Netanyahu, if you want to speak to this at all, seemed to be working with Hillary Clinton and Obama to create ISIS. I mean, because ISIS was created, as we just explained.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. That's what happened
through NATO. So if you want to talk about that at all, like, what role did Israel and Netanyahu play in creating ISIS?
I mean, you name it. Israel just cannot help themselves. They gotta just screw with everybody at all times, and then run and hide behind. Yeah, I don't know. All right, so with all of that, it was coordinated, of course. Israel owns, through blackmail, we all know this now, with Jeffrey Epstein and other people like him and organizations like him, they control, Congress and everything. And so for him to want to be able to do these things and overthrow these people, do these things, he gets to do whatever he wants, until Trump came along. And he said, no, you're not going to do that. Remember how he told him, no, we're going to move over there and we're going to make, it livable and rebuild and stuff and make it nice next to over in Gaza. And that was in front of the whole world. He punked Bibi right there. And then Bibi went back home. And a few weeks later, IDF or whatever said they're just going to take it themselves or whatever. But that's the whole thing. They never keep an agreement. They never keep a ceasefire. Literally, every single ceasefire that they said they would do, I think without exception, that they broke the ceasefire in less than, a few weeks or whatever. They're the most dishonest pieces of trash on this planet. I've really had enough of them. I'm sure you've seen how there are people. I mean, for example, a women's prison over there in Israel. They have men shouting outside, demanding that they get to rape the women inside because it's their right. Stuff like that. It's systemic over there.
The Knesset passing that when that scandal came out, that the the videos of the IDF soldiers gang raping the Palestinians, men gang raping other men, by the way.
Yeah.
And then the Knesset had to weigh in, and they passed like a measure that said that it wasn't actually illegal for IDF to rape prisoners.
Dude, that's the whole point. These people, they believe that we're all just cattle to them. We're just cows on a ranch to them, and we don't have the same rights as them. I mean, it's just what they believe, and it's part of their religion. That's what they're taught, and they're even taught to lie, to the same way in Islam, to lie and deceive, and then continue to believe what you believe, that you're superior to everybody. Everybody, look at Hitler and the Nazis. I'm kind of thinking that, they didn't, I don't think they thought they're better than everybody, did they? I don't know, but I'm just saying that what happened with all that stuff, it goes back all the way to the non-taxable foundations, such as the Rockefeller Foundation, the Carnegie Foundation, the Ford Foundation, yada, yada. They were made after the Federal Reserve was made. They want to make sure that they didn't get their money taken from them. So they made non-taxable foundations so that, they can also do their black ops or whatever they want to do. And in short order, those organizations were doing anti-American things, which would be considered communist. Basically, even to this day, like the Clinton Foundation, everything that they do is anti-American. And there was actually a guy named Dodd, who in the 60s was tasked with investigating these non-taxable foundations because no one's ever audited them before, and it was needed. So he did. He hired some people, organized everything, and it turns out that they planned World War I, World War II, and so on. All of it was pre-planned, and even in the meeting minutes. See, that's the thing. It's a funny thing because in the 60s, by that time, the generation that was running these non-taxable foundations, doing all the dirt, they retired. Okay, so like you get like a couple sets come through, and then no one does an audit and goes back and reads the meeting minutes all the way from the beginning of these organizations because they're lazy. Why would they do that? So naturally, whenever Congress is like, "Let's go, can we audit these?" They're like, "Yeah, sure, here, go ahead." Because their most recent activities, they're not going to find anything. They all that they know. But then when they go back to the very beginning, meeting minutes, it's like, yeah, we planned World War I, World War II, and you know why the commission was broken up? Because it was anti-Semitic.
Which commission?
His commission to investigate the non-taxable foundations, Dodd. You can look
Dodd.
it up.
Yeah, wow.
His name is Dodd. Look it up. It's one of the most important videos that will ever be seen by on the internet at this time. That is a linchpin into understanding what's happening now. Yeah, they took out a USAID, but these non-taxable foundations have been doing this and continue to do these things that are not sanctioned by America, and they're un-American, and they harm America, quite all of it. So quite literally, enemies of America, are not getting taxed. And then they're planning all of this stuff, trying to have everybody have their kids read to by drag queens and all that crazy shit. By the way, it's all in the Talmud. God,
yeah,
I'm so sick of it, dude.
Well, but that's a good point because you talk about like the indoctrination. I mean, we've seen obviously the effects of indoctrination in America and how quickly that can spill over and become and just like run amok in just the course of a few decades. But Zbigniew Brzezinski was doing that in the 70s with Osama Bin Laden by building all these madrasas for the Muslims in exchange for the Mujahideen fighting the Soviets and saying, hey, we'll build you schools, we'll educate your kids, come fight for us. Like, come one, come all, like ring the dinner bell. Everyone come to Afghanistan. Let's go fight the Soviets. We'll take care of your kids. We'll build schools for them. Your kids will be educated. And then, of course, those are the schools they use to recruit kids to later create Al-Qaeda.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I think Al-Qaeda even was created by us, just like Hamas was created by Israel. Yep. So when I see that, Israel, Hamas attacked us. You mean you attacked yourself? You attacked yourself. You attacked yourself. Okay, thanks. Okay, and then and nobody says it right to their faces. You created Hamas. Why are you coming to us? Why are you complaining? Why are you complaining? Why are you crying? Why are you crying? You ever heard that George Lopez skit? Why are you crying? He's like, why are you crying? His parents, like, what are you crying about? You're gonna go punch people in the nose, then hide behind us, and then make us pay for all your shit. We pay for all. We literally pay for their military retirements. We pay for their military disabilities and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, what a scam.
We pay for their
scam.
and that's another scandal is the wealth, like the entire like settler movement is like a whole like welfare class. Like there's a huge welfare. They all have like free healthcare, free housing. It's all subsidized by the Israeli government. If you're willing to go out and claim a house in the West Bank, meaning you take it from a family forcibly with the IDF standing behind you with guns,
kill them, rape them, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, guns
Doesn't
pointed
matter.
at their head. Hey, you can either walk out the door, we'll just shoot you, or maybe we'll throw you in handcuffs and you'll rot in a prison for a couple of years. If you're willing to do that, the Israeli government will subsidize you and give you money and pay for your housing and help you like develop farms or whatever it is. Free healthcare, all of it. But ultimately that money is actually coming from the United States.
Yes.
Yeah, in most cases.
And Greg Abbott in the state of Texas, did you see that Greg Abbott literally stole state funds and gave it to Israel?
Yeah,
that dude's a traitor. I don't care what he says. I don't care. Look what he's done at the border. He's full of trash. He let so much stuff through. He could have made calls as the governor. He could have made some more security, regardless of whatever they did. He could order the National Guard to do it. He didn't do it. He did do a lot of stuff. He let the Muslims build these entire crazy ass cities that quite frankly, they built them really fast and efficiently. And I'm surprised that they could. But, in Texas now they have a problem, because you had all these illegals, Muslims come through and they all have these big ass cities where they hide each other and stuff.
Yeah.
So
you could have slowed that down with permitting, by the way. You could have but obviously they were able to get their permits, and that means that there had to be
was approved. So,
yeah, exactly.
So that guy's full of shit. He's a traitor. He's probably friends with that lady across the way, the one that killed 50, people in Mexico to become the president. Are you kidding me, dude? And then she has the audacity to talk trash to us. Guess what? The Jalisco cartel that was run, and we arrested over 600, 700, 900, whatever of them in the United States. You know how that happened? Because the leader of the Jalisco cartel worked for the Mexican Naval Intelligence. He faked his death. And then he went to San Diego, and he was caught when the Biden administration was in office. And so guess what? If we do have that guy that was the leader of the Jalisco cartel, that was a Navy officer, if we do have him, that lady has no feet to stand on. And you know what? She sounds a lot like an enemy combatant to me. I think that she should really watch what she says. Because once you become a hard target, it's,
yeah,
I don't know a lot of people that would have trouble,
Yeah. That is an interesting dynamic, because it's like she's definitely living in a cartel, like narco state. And so,
does she not understand we have cruise missiles?
Yeah.
We have cruise missiles, dude. You're stupid. Like, what do you think? We know we can hear you breathe. These dumbasses think we don't know that they have a separate cell system. They have an entire separate cell phone network. We're listening. They're stupid.
Find out. You want.
Sorry, I didn't mean to play that.
Wake up in the morning.
Wait, let me. You want to restart that?
Actually, play the one that says President Trump. Well, that's the one with the extortion 17. And then there's another picture with the Soleimani. We'll tie him into Oprah.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
this is what's called adrenochrome. We could talk about all that stuff. If you really wanted to get into it, but basically, if you back to the other one real quick with the images, you can see how Oprah.
This one.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me see. There we go.
They all have the same ring. By the way.
Okay. So like now that we're talking about Soleimani, we're kind of jumping all over the place, but that's fine. Like, because I am 100% going to have you back to do a few more episodes, and we can determine like when that happens. Next week I'll be off because we'll be at the conference.
Sure.
But you and I will talk about this. Let's go ahead and talk about Soleimani real quick. Because my theory, and this is just a theory from like reading the tea leaves, Soleimani comes in like when they're driving at Assad, like they're going at Assad 2011, 2012. Hillary Clinton uses her clout as Secretary of State to get Syria kicked out of the Arab League. And I believe it was 2011. And that kind of pushes Syria out of the the sphere of influence of Arabia and into the sphere of influence of Iran. And then Soleimani then uses the Quds forces to proliferate this network of proxy militias that are purportedly all against Israel. And it seems to me, like Trump helped the IDF and Mossad develop this plan to kill Soleimani, and then the night before they're going to kill him. I think it was January 2019, if I'm not mistaken.
You know this.
Yeah, the night before they were going to kill him, they pick up the phone. I think it's either Ron Dermer or David Barnea. It's David Barnea, who's the current Mossad director, because at the time he was appointed, like his job was he was running the Soleimani file. His job was basically to hunt Soleimani. So he picks up the phone. He calls the White House. He says, "Hey, we're out. We're not going to do this." And Trump is so pissed. He says, "Fine, you're not going to do it. Like, we were supposed to play second fiddle to the IDF killing this guy. We'll do it." And so then Trump pulls the trigger. Trump kills Soleimani and says he'll never forgive Netanyahu for backing out at the last minute. So I'm wondering, why the hell would Netanyahu back out of killing this guy if he had him in the crosshairs? And my only conclusion is that Soleimani was working for Netanyahu and was his asset.
Yes, that's true. And he also worked for John Brennan in particular, especially.
Interesting.
Yeah, because and then the same day that Soleimani got whacked, the Iran had a plane taken off, and that plane was carrying Ukrainian soldiers that were the handlers. It was like by proxy, and of course the Ukrainians are mainly run by Mossad, but then also CIA is in there too. So here, and what's really funny about all of it is that Soleimani was a part of Benghazi, the attacks there, and that's one of the reasons they want to get him too, because he had a major role in that.
So he was a part of Benghazi.
Yes, he flew in that day with the Quds force. They did this weird distraction, firefight thing that they did, and then that's to kind of draw attention away from what they're about to do. Yeah, and then they attacked the embassy, and it's Soleimani was a part of it, and Soleimani worked for Brennan. He worked for Mossad, and so it all makes perfect sense when you look at it and connect it all. What's really nice about all of this is that I was thanked personally because of the information I provided that led to his demise, because he was a part of it. And I actually got some of the images that were never published on the day they whacked him. It was really nice of him. It's like, "Thank you. Here, this is the result of your work. Thank you." And I got, pictures that are not on the internet of what happened there. It's he died like a dog. Died like a dog.
Was that the one where, remind me, was that the one where they used was it called the Ninja missile? The missile that had like the knives that came out of it?
I don't know, but
and the car gets like shredded up like a block.
Oh, you want to see it? Let's put it on. I'll put the car on there.
I mean, if you have the image, yeah. I mean, disclaimer here, graphic disclaimer. If you're weak stomached, whatever. But
there's two parts of the car got blown in half. So which one do you want to see? I guess we'll look at this one. The other.
So that's the car.
Well, I think it's the front end. Let's see the other part. Is this it? Yeah.
Am I remembering that right though? Was this the Samurai missile, like the missile with the warhead that had blades on the end of it?
I'm not sure which one they used, but I believe that it would be that one because of look how little damage there was.
Yeah,
because
I'll look this up real quick.
It was such a precision strike. I got these awesome pictures. Kind of gnarly in some spots. This one was on TV, but I got all these before anybody else had them. And it's kind of satisfying to know that they put them away. Let's see here. This one's a good one too. It's a part of his car too. There's that ring of his.
There's that ring, huh? Wow.
I think that's his bodyguard. I'm pretty sure they had an Uzi, which is kind of ironic. I don't know for sure what kind of weapon it was. You have to look at that. I'll put it up here real quick. The one that was still attached to the weapon. I never really found it. Yeah. So anyway, here's some more of the documents that weren't shown. I don't know, some other stuff. Usually I like right now the StreamYard's letting me put all this up. It's pretty fun. What is this one? Yeah, but it's got money and all that stuff. Here's the weapon. I found it. Or is that it? No. There it is. All right. That one's fun. All right. So yeah, you can scroll through these now.
Let's see. Okay, we got this one. And I just looked it up. It was not that they did not use the Ninja missile on it. It's the look at that. Is that an Uzi?
I think so, man. I don't know for sure. I could be wrong.
It does look like an Uzi. Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that ironic?
That is.
Why would he be carrying an Uzi? Tell me, Ghost.
That is really.
Who makes
ironic.
Uzis?
Doesn't Israel make Uzis?
I think so.
Yeah, they do actually. Okay. Al Zawahi, I think, is the one that was that the one we used? Anyway, the RX-9 Ninja Bomb is the one that I'm thinking of. It has the 6 samurai sword blades that shoot out of it. And I don't know.
They chopped it, whatever it was. They got chopped up like. Let me show you what he looked like. I mean, he looked like he didn't have a good day. I don't know if I got that one image on there right now. I think it was.
And then it was strange because after he's killed, the Iran, like Trump, as Trump tells it, Iran calls him and says, "Hey, we have to do a response to save face, so just stand by. We're gonna fire some missiles into the ground. Like it'll land outside of your base. No one's gonna get hurt. Just know this is for show only." And then they fire like a bunch of missiles into the sand, and Trump says that was that. That was it. Very, very interesting, odd sequence of events.
Yeah, the thing about Iran is that we've had spooks that have been embedded there for a long, long time, and with everything that happened, as you remember, they did those precision strikes in Iran. I believe, and I can't prove it, but I hypothesize that that was. That was part of the Safari Club. They just took out the Safari Club, and that's really what was going on there. Give me 1 second here. I want to pull up.
It was January 2020, by the way. Now, I said January 2019. January 2020 was when they took him out. And then I'm sorry. You had additional. Am I pulling something up?
Yeah, about I didn't put the one very graphic image. I kind of held back on it, but I think that everybody needs to see it because he earned it, and that's how I feel about it. So give me 1 second here. I'll pull that up. There we go.
Graphic disclaimer, everyone, on this one.
Yeah, it's gory.
All right, this one's gory. Yep, there it is. I'm just going to leave it up for a second and we'll put it away. But man. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you sharing those with us. Yeah, we have a lot. You and I have so much to talk about. So we're going to have you back. Let's do this. Let's do our last, we'll hit our last ad on the conference. If you want to stick around for a minute, we'll run through some rants and then we'll sign off. But we're definitely going to want to have you back for some additional discussion because the stuff that you and I were talking about earlier before the show, we need to flesh all that out. So,
oh yeah, it's gonna be really nice.
All right. I'll stand by for a second. Let me pull up 2 short videos. We got first one is Garden.
Can't make it to Deadwood? No problem. Join us virtually for the 9th stop on the Badlands Great American Restoration Tour. Streaming live August 15th through 17th from legendary Deadwood, South Dakota. Experience GART from anywhere with our exclusive virtual live stream ticket. Your pass unlocks front row access to lively discussions and the premiere of Codex 9/11. All from the comfort of your own home. Make new friends and have your questions answered live from the group chat. Grab a ticket to join us in Deadwood. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/Deadwood and get your pass today.
All right, yes, we are going to be in Deadwood, South Dakota. I'll be there on Thursday, and for this upcoming GART this weekend. Looking forward to seeing everybody there. Go get your ticket. If you can't be there in person, get your virtual ticket, badlandsmedia.tv/events. And then I have one short little 30-second video that I'm going to play without comment, and we'll leave it there. Yeah. All right. So no comment on that. You'll find out more about that here soon. Let's hit some rants. So looks like we got a few. All right. We have Ashley D, $4. Just getting here, but thank you, Gordon and Nick. I'm sure it's going to be an excellent show. Thank you, Ashley. Appreciate your support. ZBM. There's warnings in the Bible of people who claim to be Jews but are not. And from what I remember, those verses say that these people do evil things, but don't quote me on the last part. Yeah, Revelations 2:9 and 3:9, I believe, is what you're referring to. And it's a letter, I believe it's a letter that Jesus was writing to the churches in the East that were where the people there were being persecuted by the Pharisees of their region. But yeah, it's interesting. Suspense 21. Thank you again, Ghost and Nick. I will be listening in the background as I take care of chores. I truly appreciate the info from both of you and your dedication. Peace and blessings to you and your families. Well, thank you, Suspense. Appreciate your support. Thanks for being here.
Thanks.
Nick, if you want to give everyone your coordinates, where can they follow you or find more information that you're sharing?
Well, here in Badlands, I plan on spending a lot more time here and giving you guys all the sauce. I've got lots of documents and audio recordings. It would take a really long time for everything, so we can just kind of take it as we go here. But you can find me on Twitter at Real Nicholas No, NicholasNoe. On Twitter at Real Nicholas No, and then I'll have my book on there too, Extortion 17, the Why, and basically you'll find out. Spoiler alert: it was Israel that did 9/11, and even the leaders over there in the Middle East, like if you go get it, you can get the audiobook too, which is easier too. Basically. They were in tears and they're wondering. They knew, and they were so incredibly troubled because it was Mossad and it was going to get pinned on them. And my friend Alan was there, and they brought him in there to talk to him, because he's American. He'd have like the insight to know why they would do this to him. And just get the book and you'll find out that stuff, what exactly word for word was said, when it happened, when 9/11 happened, who called who. All these things are recorded, so whenever the dates and times are given, all they can do is go back and listen to it. It's really good.
Interesting. Yeah, we're definitely going to have you back for a number of subjects to discuss, but appreciate everyone being here. Please hit the thumbs up. Again, there will be no show next week because I will be in Deadwood until Tuesday of next week. But yeah, thanks again, Nick. You and I will talk offline about getting you back here soon. And yeah, thanks again, everybody. Y'all have a good night, and we will see you next time.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.